Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of TMC, the Mainframe community. I'm your host, Niall Ashley. I'm here with Mainframe Society, and also speaking of enjoying the experience, I'm joined by the legend in this industry, that is Jim Horne. Jim, do you want to tell our audience a bit about yourself?
As Niall said, my name is Jim Horne. I work for a company called Lowe. We sell hardware in the United States. We are not the hotel company. I've been kicking around the mainframe industry for over 40 years now, and I've done a little bit of everything over the years. Now I pretty much focus on capacity and performance stuff. But it's been a fun life, and I hope it doesn't stop anytime soon.
Brilliant. Jim, this is a podcast all about community. So I'm curious, and I know a little bit, I've had a little bit of a spoiler, but what does community mean to you? And then after that, we can start to discuss maybe community groups you've been a part of in the past. But we'll start off holistically. What does community mean to you?
In its simplest sense and its broadest sense, community means family.
Okay. Like a chosen family.
People who care about each other, who want to help each other. And, sometimes not everybody in the community goes along with that, but, it is what it is.
Of course.
So it's people trying to help each other.
Yeah.
To me.
I think that's lovely, though. I think you're right in that, in a way we are a family. What we do, what is it? The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. And we're here by choice, by something that binds us together, that, we coalesce over, not necessarily family by birth, but family by the choice of our circumstances. So you have told me just before this that you were part of a community group that I think is really cool. So do you want to tell our audience about maybe other community groups outside of the mainframe space that you've been a part of?
I can't do it anymore because I'm physically not capable, but for a long time I was doing community theater.
Brilliant.
Which is stage, not, it's legitimate theater. And I've acted, I've directed, I've done backstage work. The only part I've never done formally is I've never been a stage manager. Okay. I've done everything else.
Wow. That's incredible.
And it's fun.
Yeah. Do you miss it?
I do, but at the same time, it's part of the reason that I present is because I enjoy being on stage. I'm not going to say it doesn't scare me, because to me, if you're not a little bit scared, you're not going to give a good performance. And you're not going to effectively communicate.
Yeah. So you have been part of this community group. What was that like in terms of the actual community side of things? So obviously you do your job, but outside of that, was there quite a lot of camaraderie amongst peers?
There was, although I always thought it was funny because when I was at work, all of my work colleagues were like, "You act?" And when I was at rehearsals, all my fellow actors were like, "You do what for a living? You can do that?" It's like, well, yeah, because I have both artistic side and logic side, and for me, they're equally important.
Yeah, and not mutually exclusive.
Most people, it's one dominates over the other.
Yeah,
but not me.
No, I think that's really cool. Though we've never had anyone on this podcast who's ever done that, and I don't know many people who are in the theatre kind of, in performance industry.
Yeah, so. Well, only at the community theatre level. I've only been paid for one job, although. Funny thing was, I was doing voiceovers for 2 puppet shows.
Okay.
And one of them, I was the dragon in the glen. And the other one, we did a passion puppet play. And I was it was not at the Jesus Christ level. It was one level down. So I was playing the Pontius Pilate type.
Yeah.
One of the second Roman henchman. And until my lines got cut, I was Christ.
Okay.
But we decided Christ worked better off stage. So, yeah, my lines got cut. So I wasn't Christ anymore.
We've all been there, right? We've all been Christ once or twice. So Jim, with this experience in community theatre, what has there ever been anything that you have been able to transfer, like an ethos, a mantra, a teaching into the mainframe space? Or vice versa. Maybe one of these experiences, one of these community groups helped you realize something that helped you in the other.
Well, when I was directing a show, I said to my cast one time, it's not enough to pay attention. I need you to pay intention.
Okay.
And that's because, in our work life, you need to know what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
In other words, you have to pay intention. So to me, they translated to each other very naturally.
I think that's a really good point, though, isn't it? Is that sometimes people kind of superficially pay attention, they sort of roughly know what am I doing, but sometimes, like you say, it's the why. I've had people say to me like before, okay, we're gonna, for security, we're gonna say execute these jobs, and then we're gonna do X, Y, Z, and then maybe even we IPL the system, and I just sort of go, oh, okay, and then they've said to me, do you know why we're doing it? And I have to stop and go, damn, actually, I don't know. And that's a really good point. I've not been paying enough attention. I've listened, but I've heard, but have I really listened?
Well, you've heard and you've listened, but were you trying to anticipate?
Brilliant.
Were you trying to be an active partner, or were you just doing your part of the job?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what paying attention is all about. It's, let me step up and help if the other person has issues.
Yeah.
Because on stage, you don't want to leave the other guy hanging.
No, of course.
And in life, you don't want to either.
No, of course. And that's why you obviously do so much in the community, right? You don't want to leave the community hanging.
No.
You do a lot of teaching, a lot of education.
I love what I do. I owe everything to people that taught me early, and I want to pass that along, and along with the love.
Yeah.
I mean,
you said
like
earlier,
I say, I'm very passionate about this. It's not something I'm faking.
You said earlier, I think the phrase you used was you want to pay it forwards, right?
Yeah.
I think that's
and I can't take credit for that. There's actually a movie called Pay It Forward.
Yes.
Where the whole point of the movie is you can't pay things backwards sometimes, but you can always pay it forward and pass along what was given to you.
I think that really is something that we should all strive for, and the industry, the community should have more of people paying it forward to those, who need, those who have, give.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because computer people in general, but mainframe people in particular have always been very supportive of the whole thing of, I'm going to help you, even though there may not be anything in it for me.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been doing this for over 40 years, and there were so many people who didn't work for my company or my corporation, but said, you want to learn? I want to help.
Yeah.
And how can you not respond positively to that if you've got any interest at all in what you're doing?
Yeah. I think you're certainly right. You're preaching to the converted.
Oh, I know. I'm preaching to the choir here, because you've been that way ever since I first met you.
Yeah, and
that means before.
I'd hope so. Yeah, I think it's an ethos. It's a frame of kind of thinking, a way of life, really.
Yeah.
In that, I think we should all strive, to really support one another and to really bring out the best in one another. And I think it's so, like, we're so lucky in this space that we've had people who've done that for so long. I hear nothing but good things about you from people who've worked with you for far longer than, or, worked in the industry with you for far longer than I have. And I think that's the sort of admiration that you can't fake. That really comes from having made a tangible difference to people.
And that's the thing. I mean, I'm not very active on social media, because part of my small shop background was security was always a hat. So I'm paranoid about every single thing I do on social media is public. Every word I put out there. So I never really joined it in the first place. But that doesn't mean I don't care and I don't want to contribute.
Yeah.
It means that I do it other ways.
Yeah.
And again, I just can't imagine not wanting to help.
I think that says a lot about your character. I think not being able to envisage a world or a life where you don't help says a lot about who you are and what values are important to you. So I think that's lovely. I think it really is just genuinely heartwarming.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Wow. You don't need to thank me. It's just you've done it by just existing. So
but it's always nice to have somebody else acknowledge it.
I think that's a very good point. And I think that's something that this industry is a lot better at than I think maybe other industries. Having worked in the non-IT side,
We're not very good at planning projects, but we are very good at supporting each other.
that's what we've got project managers for, right?
And they're not very good at it either.
Well, you said it. I will remain neutral on camera. So Jim, I guess with regards to your experiences in community theatre, we've talked about maybe something that was a commonality or a value that you could transfer across both. Are there any similarities or differences? Have you ever maybe thought, upon reflection, actually this aspect of the community theatre space and the Mainframe, say ZOS side, are actually quite similar for maybe these specific things, or very different for these other things?
Well, the first thing that's most obvious is the difference.
Of course.
Because theater, I mean, it's the arts. It's the artistic side of the brain. Whereas mainframe work, computer work, it's the logical part of the brain.
Yeah.
I never can remember which is left, which is right. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that's the difference. But in both of them, there's a sense of, we're here to help. We're building a whole for other people to experience, to participate in.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of commonality there in terms of getting it done and doing the best you can.
Do you think there's anything that the mainframe space should do differently, or should maybe emulate more from the sort of community theatre side? I appreciate we can't go too creative. We can't have too much artistic representation in a production system. But
creativity is important, though. But actually, the biggest thing is what the worlds tend to represent, which is the mainframe world tends to be we're us and open systems is them.
Right.
Whereas theater, we're all the same, even though we're different. And, we need more of that, because we can't exist in a vacuum without the other systems. Where would a mainframe be without Linux?
Yeah.
Or sorry, where would the mainframe applications be in today's world without Linux, without the web, without the cloud?
Yeah.
And we tend to still want to be insular. No, we are the mainframe. I once asked one of our guys what he did for a living, or, what his job was at Lowe's. And he started telling me about the details of being a storage administrator. And I looked him dead in the eye and went, no, your job is to help sell hardware. His function in selling hardware was all the storage administration stuff.
Right.
But there's only two jobs at Lowe's.
Yeah.
You're selling hardware, or you better be helping somebody else sell the hardware.
Do you think, though, so with this, sorry, I'm trying to rephrase this question. So Kelly's gonna have to edit this out later.
You're fine.
Okay. So I don't know how to phrase it. So basically, I just wanted to ask, you've just talked about, you've got your function and your kind of role. I just want to ask about, maybe, do you think that's something that, one sec. So do you think that this idea of, like, there's your function and there's your role, maybe there's your kind of job title, and there's your actual intended function. Do you think that's something that maybe we as an industry need to improve upon clarifying that, or maybe, being more transparent?
I personally think that we should do exactly that, be more clear about what our roles are.
Yeah.
But the corporate entities as they exist today are more about homogenizing us. I mean, my title used to be mainframe systems programmer. It's now infrastructure engineer.
Yeah.
Because everybody can relate to, you got to have infrastructure.
Yeah.
And by blandishing it out, trying to whitewash it, make everybody the same, you stop celebrating the differences, because there are absolute differences between platforms.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm saying there are differences. I am not saying one is better than the other, because we all need each other.
Yeah. Well,
But
like
to
you
say
said-
somebody's an infrastructure engineer, well, that doesn't mean I can go take over and, you know, administer a whole cluster of x86 machines, because I don't know a bloody thing about that.
But I think it's important, like you say, to know you can't, no, you know, something isn't better, it's different. Because like you said, all these things work together. They're you know, a sort of an interconnected web.
Yeah, we're interdependent.
Exactly. We log into a virtual desktop that's maybe, you know, Microsoft VDI, and we log into that, and you've got some x86 server hardware going on behind the scenes. Then upon that, we have a mainframe terminal emulator, and then upon that, we have, say, ZOS and Unix. Maybe you have, I don't know, Linux 1, but then all these things coalesce. And then you've got all the other systems that run. Maybe there's some AWS in there, you know. You can't see one piece of the puzzle. You have to see the whole puzzle, you know. It's all there.
I mean, you have to focus on what you do, but if you're not aware of how you fit into everybody else, then you can't do the best job possible.
I totally agree. I think that leads really well to our last question then. Is there a call to arms? Is there a request, maybe a petition you might want to make to our audience? Like, you know, about maybe thinking about the system differently, about thinking, stop being so insular maybe, or something to that effect?
Yeah. Work with everybody, not just the people you work with every day.
That's such a good point. I've learned so much recently by not actively by not working with security people, but just by happening to work with ZOS systems programmers and storage people and DB2 people. I've learned so much that I'd never thought of before. Kicks, you know, I wouldn't generally touch kicks, but I've learned a vast amount by saying, actually, maybe I ought to learn this. Maybe there's an opportunity here. So I think that's a brilliant point. So, and that's something that carries you through your career, I assume.
It always has, and you know, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but I'm having too much fun now to worry about that.
Don't worry about it. I always say you don't have to grow up. You just have to grow old.
And I'm doing that. Oh boy, am I doing that.
Jim, this has been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed having you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.